Peacemaker, ladies and gentlemen. Peacemaker, episode 8, Cow or Never. We have reached the end. This is your boy Icon with some DC TV. And I have to say, I definitely have to say, after watching this, I was not happy in the beginning when this series first came out, but it definitely grew on me because like it was like in the very beginning, because they gave us the first 3 episodes right out the gate. The amount of comedy that happened in the very beginning of the series, it was just like, dear God, it was like, dear God, like my worst nightmare come true, like a Marvel show on HBO Max. And the comedy, like it went on and on and on and on for like 3 episodes. But once episode 4 came, they kind of calmed down a little bit. I mean, obviously they were still doing the comedy because that's the Peacemaker character. Like character specific. The Peacemaker character is like a comedic, like goofball idiot character. So they did continue it, but it wasn't as forced and it wasn't as much as it was in the beginning. So once the show kind of like turned it down a little bit, and then they started focusing on like the action and the characters and everything. Once the show got a little bit more serious, I actually really started enjoying it. But that wasn't until episode 4. So and then I ended up like really enjoying like the beginning theme song, and then it's like I said, like it definitely grew on me, and I thought overall, like I thought it was a very good series, and I'm very happy with it. So talking about this particular episode, the season finale, and we are getting a season 2 of Peacemaker, just to let you know, like season 2 of Peacemaker is coming. So it starts where this episode starts where the last episode ended, because the whole group now, they're on their way to go kill this cow. And Adebayo, she's in the truck. She's trying to apologize to Peacemaker. It's not working. And then, she was just like, oh, he was making like fart jokes and everything. And she's like, oh, I'm just trying to apologize. And he was like, I just thought you were my friend. And then, he was all like broken up because she did the diary thing and tried to set him up. So they get to the barn where the cow is. Remember, Hardcore is in charge, and we're trying to come up with a plan. The plan, so Peacemaker had about 4 helmets. So he still had 4 helmets. So they asked him, they were just like, well, what did the helmets do? And then he was just like, well, one helmet is a human torpedo, one can fly, like the other one can activate a sonic boom, like et cetera, et cetera. One can help you breathe underwater. Adebayo had came up with an idea for the sonic boom one. She said that she was going to take, basically going to take a 2-way radio, put it inside the helmet. She said that if we can get that helmet somewhere in the barn, we can activate the sonic boom from a distance, and it'll blow up the barn, and it'll kill the cow and kill all the butterflies that are inside. But then, because she said the words, the floating helmet ended up, like raising up in the air and flew off. But then I guess like when they realized that the floating helmet was a bust, they were just like, okay, maybe we can take the sonic boom helmet and we can have Bird grab the helmet and put the helmet on top of the barn. So Chris actually tried to do that. He tried to get Eagly to fly the sonic boom helmet because they lost the flying one. He tried to get him to fly the sonic boom helmet over to the barn. That didn't work. Eagly dropped it in the middle of the forest. So now they have to go find the sonic boom helmet and figure out a way to get it into the barn. So while everybody's walking around going through the woods, that's when Peacemaker had a vision and he saw his dad, because he is hallucinating now. He's literally batshit crazy, and the trauma of him killing his own father is starting to haunt him. He literally like sees his dad, and he even got into an argument with his dad where it's like his dad was calling him a pussy and said that, he was just like, oh, you thought because you killed me I was gonna go away. He was like, you'll never be rid of me. he's like, I'm in your head, boy. And then he was arguing with his dad, and then he took a poison dart and tried to shoot his dad, but his dad's not really there. And then the dart ended up hitting a tree, and then Hardcore saw him basically having a conversation with nobody, and then she walked over to him and she was like, yo, bro, you good? And then he was just like, yeah. But he didn't actually tell her about the hallucinations. I think he should have, but he didn't tell her. So they find the helmet, and now that they find the helmet, they said that someone's actually going to have to take this helmet and place it in the barn. They get John to do it because out of all the people that Goff, who took over the Asian police officer, he's the only person that Goff never saw, so she wouldn't recognize his face. They send him to go plant the helmet. He goes in the barn. He plants the helmet, he puts it down, he ends up seeing the cow, he freaks out, he comes back upstairs, but then when he comes back upstairs, he gets confronted by one of the butterflies. And then the butterfly had asked him, because the butterflies assumed he was a butterfly too. So they asked him, he said, hey, the human body that you inhabited, why did that particular person decide to dye his beard? And there were jokes about that earlier in the season where Peacemaker was making fun of him, calling him Dyebeard, but he was saying that he didn't dye his beard. Come to find out, he does. He told the story that basically he dyed his beard because he thought it would make him look younger. He never had a girlfriend, so he thought that would help him get chicks. And he said that because he had a dead end job and he didn't have money, he couldn't afford to keep up with the dyeing. So he ended up buying like the cheapest dye possible, and then it messed up his beard. He didn't take care of the roots or whatever. And meanwhile, like the entire team was listening to this. And this is like a very sad moment for John. It's like a very sad moment for him. And then he was just like, but because, he wasn't popular, because he didn't have a girlfriend or anything, he said that he didn't think anybody noticed. But then he said, recently, I met a guy, talking about PeaceMaker, he said, I met a guy that kept bringing it up, and he keeps making fun of me about it constantly. So now PeaceMaker feels bad, like hardcore feels bad, like everybody feels bad. And then, then he ends up like walking away. And then after he walked away, he was just like, he said on comms, he was like, fine, guys. He's like, I dyed my beard, so the fuck what? But then one of the butterflies came from downstairs. He found the helmet, and he was just like, yo, the fat guy ended up planting this thing downstairs. And then that's when the butterflies knew that John actually wasn't a butterfly. So they ran over to him to try to, like, I guess, kill him. And, when they got on top of him, right before they were able to kill him, they had, because the helmet was actually there in the barn, Adebayo, she said activate sonic boom. And then when she activated the sonic boom, it blew up the barn. Once the barn exploded, all the butterflies tried to run back to the barn because they had to go save the cow. And then Adebayo activated the sonic boom 4 times. And it blew up the entire foundation, and it buried the butterfly like underground. The butterflies now, they're all trying to get back into the barn, so they can save the cow. And then that's when Hardcore, Vigilante, and PeaceMaker, they all walked out and proceeded to shoot and kill the butterflies for peace. He actually has a shield. And I thought that was hilarious. Like, PeaceMaker has a shield, the shield of peace. So he's coming down there with like his gun and his peace bird shield. And then, like Hardcore, she was like chopping people. Vigilante was chopping people. Everybody was chopping people. But then they told Adebayo and they told John to stay behind because they're not like, like the best fighters. Goth ended up going downstairs to try to save the cow. PeaceMaker went after her. When PeaceMaker went downstairs, he actually fell because like the stairs caved in on him. He fell to the floor, and then he got buried under a pile of like wood, dust, and rocks. Vigilante got shot in the back. Hardcore got shot like 4 times. Like she got shot like 4 or 5 times, so both of them were down. And then Adebayo, she gets up and she's just like, oh, I gotta help them, I gotta save them. And then John was just like, oh, but you can't go out there. And then she was like, I have to. And then he's like, what makes you think you can go out there? And then she's like, that's because I'm built for this shit. And I'm like, now you built for this shit. Because in the last episode, she did this whole thing where she was crying and sobbing and everything, and she was just like, oh, I gotta get out of here, I'm not built for this shit. And it's like, now all of a sudden you built for this shit. So she goes out there, and she's pretty decent. Like, she's decent, she's good with the pistol. She killed a lot of butterflies. She ended up she got to Hardcore told her to go downstairs and go help Chris. So when she goes downstairs, I guess she had the torpedo, like the torpedo helmet with her. She took Chris's torpedo helmet and she went downstairs. PeaceMaker ends up getting pulled out of the rubble, not by Adebayo, but by Goth. And then when Goth pulled him out, he said, he was just like, oh, why would you save me? And then she said, because I want you to join us. She told him, she said that if I explain to you what we're doing the same way we explained it to Judo Master, then maybe you'll join our cause. She said that their planet was basically unlivable because they killed it. So they came to our planet. And then when they saw that we were on the same path that they were on, they wanted to, basically, save us from ourselves. So she said that what we were doing, she said, and she literally used the words, she said, we're saving you from yourselves. And she's like, we're killing. She said that we're trying to save the earth and obtain peace, no matter how many people have to die in order to get it. And then that's where Chris was like, shit. She was like, we took an oath, and then he was just like, now he understands how he sounds to other people. And then she was just like, oh, but I see in your heart, you're a good person. She's like, you showed me kindness, although you kept me in a jar. She's like, you showed me kindness, like you fed me, you talked to me. And she said, that's why I drew the peace sign on the jar, because she was like, I wanted you to know that, that I agree with you and I sympathize with you. And then she said, like, I want you to join us. And then she was just like, will you help us finish the mission to save our planet? She was like, come on, Chris, what do you say? And then after that, he was like, activate human torpedo, because while she was talking to him, Adebayo had showed up at that point, and she tried to human torpedo her, but she missed and she hit a brick wall. But then when Adebayo, slowly got back to her feet, Chris said, activate human torpedo, and then Adebayo flew straight ahead and crashed and killed the cow. So once the cow died, Chris, he ended up killing, he didn't kill Goth. He shot the body, like the Asian girl, like he shot the body in the chest. But, and this is very interesting, he never actually killed Goth. And to be honest, there were a lot of butterflies that during the fight scene between hardcore Peacemaker and Vigilante, when they were chopping off limbs and everything, chopping off heads, a lot of butterflies actually didn't get killed because they weren't taking a lot of headshots. They were cutting off limbs and everything. But Peacemaker chose to not kill Goth in that moment. He even looked behind him and he saw Goth pulling herself out of the Asian girl's body, and then he just left Goth there, and then he ended up, he took out a bio and he went upstairs. So once he gets upstairs, Vigilante gets back to his feet, the whole gang's upstairs, Goth is free now, like the cow is dead, and then once that happens, he sees Hardcore on the floor, he picks up Hardcore, and then the whole team ends up walking back to the bus so they can get out of here, and that's when we got the we got the cameo. It's that, like, at that moment you heard the lightning, and then we saw the silhouettes of Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Aquaman. And when I saw that, like, I smiled from ear to ear because it was a silhouette. It wasn't, in my mind, I was like, well, it's not actually them, but it is kind of cool that they at least did a silhouette to acknowledge the fact that the Justice League is here. Because even earlier, when Adebayo was talking to Amanda Waller, she said to her mom, she was like, listen, like, we're dealing with this cow situation. She was like, can't you call them the Justice League or something? And I guess she did. Like, Amanda Waller found a way to contact the Justice League. And so the Justice League shows up, and I'm just like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's nice. Like, they did a little silhouette thing, let us know the Justice League was there. And then Peacemaker and the rest of the gang, they walk right past the Justice League, and then right before Peacemaker walks past them, he looks at the four, because again, it was only four of them, like Cyborg and Batman weren't there. He looks at all four of them, and he goes, you're late, assholes, and I started dying. Like, I was just like, that was fun, because I didn't think he was going to say that to them. I didn't think he had the cojones to actually say that to the Justice League, but he was just like, yo, you're fucking late, assholes. And then he walks past Aquaman, and he goes, why don't you go, he's like, why don't you go fuck more fish, you asshole. And then when Aquaman turns his face, it was actually Jason Momoa. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I gotta clap that in the words of Sean, the true comic book fan. I gotta clap that up real quick, for DC pulling that off. And then when Jason Momoa said the line, he was like, I'm so sick of that rumor of him fucking fish. They turned to Flash, and it was actually Ezra Miller. And I was like, wow. And then as soon as I realized that was Ezra Miller, I was like, please let that be Gal over on the end. But Gal and Superman, obviously Henry Cavill wasn't gonna be there, but Gal and Superman. Gal and Henry Cavill, those weren't them. I guess they were like body doubles and, like, obviously body doubles. They were stand-in silhouette actors, but the actual Ezra Miller, Flash and Jason Momoa Aquaman, those two were actually there. And that was really cool to see because the Snyderverse is still alive, ladies and gentlemen. And even Amanda Waller, Viola Davis was in the episode too. She was there at the end. And she appeared earlier in the season as well. So the Snyderverse is still alive, baby, and I'm here for it. I mean, I heard a rumor that HBO Max is basically trying to buy the Arrowverse, and then there's supposed to be like a merger, like a takeover, where like a new company is supposed to be buying, like Warner Media or whatever. And then I also heard that the company that's actually interested in purchasing Warner Media, they actually want the Snyderverse to continue. So please, let's pray for this and hope that this happens. But I like the fact that they're still keeping all the characters together. It's not like Peacemaker just existed in some world or some Earth where, like, the Snyder Cut Justice League characters aren't there. They're actually there on the Earth too, because they showed up in the season finale, which was dope. So we're in the hospital. We're all in the hospital, and like Hardcore's in the hospital, Vigilante's in the hospital. Everybody's in the hospital. John's in the hospital, and then Peacemaker and Adebayo, they had a conversation. She apologized. He forgave her. He told her that he was her BFF after Eagly, and then that's when she felt bad. And then she said, "Listen," she's like, "I got something I got to do." And then he was like, "What are you gonna do?" And then she said, "I got to make this shit right." She called a press conference, and on behalf of her being an Argus agent, she basically spilled the beans on Task Force X, which brought Viola Davis, Amanda Waller character in the frame, and she was pissed because her daughter basically, just like dimed her out, to the public. She told them about the Suicide Squad. She told them about like everything that happened in I was gonna say Sokovia, Markovia, wherever the place. Like she told us, she was like, yo, she said that the whole thing is run by my mama. You know what I'm saying? Like she spilled the beans on that one, and then she called for an immediate investigation into Argus. So now now that Argus has basically been put on blast, I wonder if now we're gonna get Amanda Waller. Like if Viola Davis Amanda Waller shows up in future projects for the DC universe, I wonder now instead of Argus, is it gonna be Cadmus? Like, are they gonna make the switch over to Cadmus now because Adebayo basically dimed Argus out? That would be cool because then maybe we'll get a Superboy, like or like some other crazy things. But like I said, there's definitely a lot to unravel there. And then hardcore, she woke up. They said that Chris was waiting for her the entire time. He was by her bedside the whole time. And then she cried. The two of them held hands. Vigilante, got himself out of the hospital, jumped out the window. And then each character went their own individual ways at that point. John basically, and I will say this, the one thing about the series that did irk me, and it's very minor, but it just personally like irked me. I hate the fact that they keep calling that prison Belle Reve. Like, it's Belle Rev prison, damn, it's Rev, it's not Reve. Every single adaptation, whether it was Justice League Unlimited, Justice League, whether it was Young Justice, like a lot of the DC like live action TV shows, every single time that prison gets mentioned, it is Belle Rev prison, and now all of a sudden y'all want to call it Belle Reve, and every time they said Reve, it like irked the shit out of me. But anyway, John, he apparently got a job and Adebayo said that too. She said that my mom was operating Task Force X at a Belle Rev prison. And at the end of the episode, John has a job working in Belle Rev prison. So I guess he still works for Amanda Waller because I don't think Amanda Waller's done with this whole thing. They never actually said why he was working there and what he was doing downstairs. He was just in some random basement like with the lights out. So who knows what's going on with that? Adebayo basically went home because she quit. Like she quit being a spy. Her and her wife embraced each other. Hardcore, she's doing physical therapy. She's trying to I guess she got shot in the spine or like she's partially paralyzed, so she's trying to learn how to walk again. So she ain't gonna be around for a while. Well, they dubbed her the leader of the team, so she can still lead the team. She just can't be out in the field. Like Vigilante and Chris, like they're still doing like the superhero thing. And then at the very, very end of the episode, it showed Peacemaker. He was home in his trailer, and then Goth was there. He even still had some of the honey that he poured out for Goth. Eagly was there. And then, Chris, he comes out of his house. He sits on the porch. And when he sits on the porch, you got Chris sitting there. You got Goth next to him. You got Eagly there. And then his dad walked in and his dad took a seat. So this whole mental thing with him like seeing visions of his dad, with his dad talking to him, cursing him out. Like his dad said, his dad is in his head. And his dad's going to be around for season 2 because he's obviously not going anywhere. They never would have showed his dad sitting there next to him if he wasn't going to be a part of season 2. And I wonder where season 2 is going to go, because is it going to be like some brand new random mission, or is it going to be a mission related to some of the DCU movies that are coming up in the future? But only time will tell. So that's how the episode ended. That was it for Peacemaker, and thank you for tuning in. Like I said, my thoughts on it. I'm excited. I'm excited because if anything, I'm one of those people. Yes, I am reading way too much into that Justice League cameo, and it does give me hope that we will once again get the Snyderverse, and we'll eventually get the Justice League movie where Darkseid, like calls the Armada and he makes his way to planet Earth to try to take over. There's still definitely hope for that, but until we get that, these characters will exist on HBO Max. They'll exist in the movies, and I just like the fact that they didn't just blow the whole thing up and walked away. They're actually still keeping these characters together in the same universe. And hopefully Flashpoint doesn't fuck all that up when the Flashpoint movie comes out. But share your thoughts below. Like, let me know what you thought of Peacemaker. Like I said, I gotta be honest, I wasn't really feeling it in the beginning because of the comedy, but they turned a corner. Like I said, the show they calmed down the comedy. The show got grounded. It got a little bit more serious. And then when it got serious, I was like, yo, this is actually pretty cool. He's the douchebag Captain America, and I'm here for it. But let me know what you think. Like, share your thoughts and questions, comments, and or concerns down below in the chat section. Let me know what you think of Peacemaker. Let me know who is your MVP of Peacemaker. For me, the MVP of Peacemaker has to be the opening theme music. But character-wise, I don't know. It could be. I'm torn between I'm torn between Peacemaker, Adebayo, and probably Vigilante, I guess. I mean, but because it is Peacemaker, I'll choose Peacemaker in the end as my MVP for the season. But like I said, but let me know who your MVP was and what your thoughts were in this whole thing and where we go from here. Hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, always on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, because now that Peacemaker's over, Young Justice is about to come back. So we're about to get that Young Jeezy. And then DC Week returns because Superman and Lois comes back, Batwoman comes back, Legends of Tomorrow comes back, Naomi comes back, and like I said, we got Young Justice too. So a lot of DC stuff happening. So if you're a fan of DC, like I said, this is where you want to be. Hit that notification bell so you'll get notified when all my videos pop up. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Like I said, I enjoyed this one, surprisingly. I hope, like I said, if you watched my reviews because of Peacemaker, hopefully you'll check me out on my other reviews, and we'll continue to keep this superhero train going until season 2 of Peacemaker starts. God knows when. So that's it. So take care, guys. One last time. Peace. I'll see you on the next one. And until then, I'm out this.